9 Ralphies? There's not even that many James Bonds. Weird but true, Ralphie is one of the most recast franchise characters in Hollywood, and we're betting you didn't even know that. Now, the original Ralphie Parker is back and he's ready to give his own kids the perfect holiday. A Christmas Story Christmas is the first time Peter Billingsley has reprised his iconic role in 40 years, but hold on to your hats, this is not the first sequel. Heck, the original is not even the first movie in what has become known as the Parker family saga. Over the past 4 decades, there have been several direct follow-ups, an abandoned TV series, a Broadway show, and even a live TV musical remake. Most of these projects have gone completely unnoticed by fans. Inundated by decades of 24-hour TV marathons, A Christmas Story lives inside of our bones. It has become arguably the most popular holiday movie of all time. So why are the other movies in this franchise mostly ignored, and why did it take A Christmas Story almost 40 years to get a true sequel? Good questions. Today, we look at the lasting legacy of A Christmas Story and all of the tie-in movies featuring Ralphie and the Parker family. If you enjoy this video, be sure to shoot that like button with your BB gun and subscribe. Then stay through to the end to find out all about Ralphie's latest adventures and what the future has in store for this franchise. Like Maverick, Michael Myers, and Fast Eddie Falson, little Ralphie Parker has finally gotten his own legacy sequel. Let's hope he doesn't shoot his eye out this time. A Christmas Movie Miracle. A Christmas Story arrived in theaters for the 1983 Thanksgiving holiday. Moviegoers of the time didn't realize a timeless holiday classic had just made its triumphant debut. The movie was a hit with critics right off the bat, and it fared well enough at the box office. Roger Ebert even added it to his great movies list the very same year it came out. No procrastinating there, huh, Roger? The movie opened at number 3 behind Amityville 3D and The Big Chill. It would climb to number 1 that following Thanksgiving weekend. A Christmas Story also battled it out with Oscar-winning drama Terms of Endearment and Clint Eastwood's fourth Dirty Harry movie Sudden Impact. Other movies opening around that same time included the Scarface remake starring Al Pacino and Stephen King's Christine from director John Carpenter. Ralphie's Holiday Adventure was the only family game in town, and it benefited from a lack of other kid-friendly fare on the big screen. A Christmas Story was the unlikely follow-up to director Bob Clark's smash hit R-rated teen comedy Porky's and its sequel Porky's 2. All 3 movies equally trafficked in the nostalgia of a bygone era during the Reagan years. Audiences were hungry for a more innocent time in American history. Gene Shepard narrates the Yuletide comedy based on his own semi-fictional 1966 book In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. Peter Billingsley stars as young Ralphie Parker, whose all-consuming wish is to unwrap a Red Ryder BB gun under the tree on Christmas morning. The comedy quickly became a Christmas tradition when it was first released on VHS and Betamax the year following its theatrical debut. It would only grow in popularity with its pay cable premiere in 1985, with the movie in constant rotation on HBO, Showtime, and the Movie Channel. It was in 1997 that TNT began airing its infamous 24 Hours of A Christmas Story marathon. The film was shown 12 consecutive times, beginning at 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve and ending at 8 p.m. on Christmas Day. After that, the movie became omnipresent. Anyone owning a TV in the 90s simply couldn't escape it. TBS took over the marathon in 2004, and it's been airing every year since. A Christmas Story is impossible to miss at this time of the year. The same can't be said for any of the sequels, which fans either don't enjoy, don't remember, or don't even know exist. The Phantom of the Open Hearth. Wait, A Christmas Story isn't Ralphie's first movie? Nope, it's not even his second one. Nearly a decade before the Parker family made their big screen debut in the 80s, Ralphie would be introduced to audiences in the 1976 made-for-TV movie The Phantom of the Open Hearth. Gene Shepard made his debut narrating as the older Ralphie, with a script also based on his book In God We Trust. The Phantom of the Open Hearth aired as an episode of PBS's anthology series Visions. This time out, Ralphie is in high school and preoccupied with the upcoming Junior Promenade Dance, a subject we'd later see in A Christmas Story 2. We'll get to that sequel here in a minute. Instead of a Red Ryder BB gun, Ralphie is obsessed with popular girl Daphne Bigelow. He hopes to overcome his shyness and ask his crush to the big dance. Of course, he chickens out, instead asking nerdy girl Wanda Hickey. He then proceeds to get drunk with his friends and spends his big date night puking in the bathroom. The Phantom of the Open Hearth marks the first appearance of the old man's tasteless leg lamp, an iconic joke that would resurface 7 years later, getting one of the biggest laughs in A Christmas Story. David Elliott played the first ever Ralphie. He went on to play Larry in Jaws 2 and became a construction coordinator in the art department of a lot of big Hollywood productions like The Hunger Games and Jane the Virgin. Those who have seen The Phantom of the Open Hearth are in a very rare club. The Unaired TV series. PBS reshot The Phantom of the Open Hearth in 1978, intending to turn it into a Parker Family TV series. While completed, the pilot never aired. Gene Shepard was the only holdover, once again reprising his role as the narrator. John Shepard, no relation to Gene, played Ralphie for this second incarnation. John Shepard is perhaps best known for playing Tommy Jarvis in Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, a role he took over from Corey Feldman. The never-before-seen Open Hearth pilot features the introduction of Ralphie's famous "Oh Fudge" line, which, like the leg lamp, would be repurposed for the impending big-screen movie. Surprisingly, the Parker family have never gotten their own TV show, live-action, animated, or otherwise. Don't be surprised if you see one debut in the near future. The Great American 4th of July and Other Disasters. The second Parker family outing was another made-for-TV movie that aired on PBS, only this time as an episode of American Playhouse. It premiered the year before A Christmas Story hit the big screen. It was also based on In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, once again featuring author Gene Shepard as the narrator. Instead of Christmas, Ralphie and his clan are celebrating Independence Day. It stars perhaps the most famous Ralphie actor of them all, Matt Dillon, who'd already appeared in a number of classics including Over the Edge, My Bodyguard, and Little Darlings. With his bad boy attitude and dark edge, some might say Dillon was a little miscast as a sweet-faced Ralphie Parker. Here, a high school-aged Ralphie is yet again preoccupied with girls, obsessing over an upcoming date with his best friend's cousin, Pamela. He plans the outing with the same military precision that won him his BB gun so many years ago on Christmas morning. Instead of Ralphie shooting out his eye, the old man blows up his front pockets with a cachet of Roman candle fireworks. Not quite as iconic. Though well received, many quickly forgot all about Ralphie's high school summer adventure, clearing the stage for Peter Billingsley's much younger incarnation of the character that following year. The star-crossed romance of Josephine Cosnowski. 2 years after the box office success of A Christmas Story, with the movie now playing in heavy rotation on pay cable, PBS decided to go back to the Parker family well for the continuing adventures of a high school Ralphie. It was time for Ralphie to celebrate Thanksgiving while once again obsessing over a girl, apparently his favorite pastime after realizing his dreams of owning a BB gun. Ralph sets his sights on the new Polish girl next door. Brother Randy has a bigger role, playing the turkey in that year's Thanksgiving Day school play, and the old man is obsessed with buying a new family car, elements that would be recycled in A Christmas Story 2. I told you we'd get to that sequel here in a minute. Gene Shepard returned as the ever-reliable narrator, and the fifth Ralphie Parker is played by Peter Govanko in what would become the most substantial role in his short acting career. Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss. The fifth Parker family movie and the final PBS adventure for Ralphie was a Disney Channel collaboration that arrived in 1988. The comedy follows the Parker clan as they head out on summer vacation, and it's one of the better-known sequels. Yes, Gene Shepard returns as the narrator in the first movie, not based on his book In God We Trust. Instead, it's based on the 1968 Ollie Hopnoodle short story that follows Ralphie and the Parkers on a summer trip to a lakeside camp in Michigan. Ralphie is obsessed with getting a job, but that doesn't last long. He quits work soon after being hired to hit the road with the old man, Ma, and Randy. There is a weird subplot about a missing dog. The breezy comedy arrives as a family-friendly version of the original R-rated National Lampoon's Vacation. The sixth Ralphie Parker to hit the screen is none other than Jerry O'Connell, who made his acting debut in the 1986 classic Stand By Me. Jerry has gone on to have quite the prolific career in the decades since. We hardly ever hear him talk about his time spent as Ralphie. My Summer Story. Keith Coogan, Sean Astin, and Will Wheaton all auditioned to play Ralphie when the original A Christmas Story was being cast. Peter Billingsley famously got the job, but sadly he was too old to reprise the role when it came time to make the first big screen sequel. Kieran Culkin, Macaulay's younger brother, took over the part to play the seventh Ralphie in the franchise, matching the same number of actors to ever play James Bond. Kieran and Macaulay's younger brother, Christian Culkin, played Randy, keeping it all in the family. Teddy Moore was the only on-screen actor from A Christmas Story to play the same character, returning as teacher Mrs. Shields. Director Bob Clark returned to the franchise for the first and only true theatrical sequel, with the movie making direct references to A Christmas Story throughout. Gene Shepard was back as the narrator, and the story was once again mining from his book In God We Trust. Production delays forced the movie to be recast almost entirely. The action takes place the summer after the events in A Christmas Story. It's the second summer movie in a row for the Parkers, only this time they don't go on vacation. The plot gives Ralphie and his parents their own mini-stories that are all tied into a reoccurring fishing trip. Ralphie has become obsessed with finding the perfect top to knock new bully Lug Ditka out of the chalk circle. Mrs. Parker is obsessed with collecting celebrity dishes, and the old man is feuding with his hillbilly neighbors, the Bumpuses. My Summer Story was originally released in theaters as It Runs in the Family. Most fans didn't even realize it was a Christmas Story sequel. The family comedy received mixed reviews and floundered at the box office, only finding a small audience once it hit home video. This underdog sleeper still hasn't gotten its due. It is the only theatrically released sequel in the Parker Saga franchise, which some of you have started to call the PCU, the Parker Cinematic Universe. A Christmas Story 2. Ralphie Parker and his family would coast on A Christmas Story for almost 18 years, with the movie having played thousands of times during the holidays since its release. The rest of the Parker saga was mostly forgotten. In 2012, Warner Home Video decided to dip back into the well with what they would call a true sequel to the original movie, despite being the seventh entry in the ongoing series. Ralphie is up there with Jason, Freddy, and the Police Academy gang when it comes to meandering sequels that nobody claims as a fan. A Christmas Story 2 ignores the events seen in My Summer Story, taking place 6 years after Ralphie has acquired his Red Ryder BB gun. This time out, a teenage Ralph Parker is obsessed with obtaining a 1939 Mercury 8 convertible as his sole Christmas present. Instead of shooting his eye out, he gets into a car crash and must pay for the damage before his old man finds out. Fans hated this so-called sequel. Despite the plentiful entries in the franchise, many felt Warner Brothers was cashing in on the original classic, turning nostalgia into profit. Gene Shepard was gone for the first time, his work replaced by an almost original script from new narrator Nat Malden. The comedy sequel does repurpose Ralphie's job hunt from Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss for the main plot. A Christmas Story 2 received mostly negative reviews, released straight to DVD on Halloween weekend when most Redbox renters were seeking out horror flicks. Of course it bombed, diving straight to the bottom of the discount bin. Warner Brothers should have instead made a Halloween story featuring the Parker family, am I right? Braden LeMasters is the 8th Ralphie Parker, and while A Christmas Story 3 was initially in the works at Warner Premiere, LeMasters wouldn't get a chance to ever reprise the role. A Christmas Story Live. A Christmas Story initially started as a play written by Gene Shepard with the title In God We Trust. That got turned into the classic holiday movie that we all know and love. In 2009, A Christmas Story became a stage musical. It hit Broadway in 2012, the same year A Christmas Story 2 arrived in video stores. Ralphie had gone big time and A Christmas Story merch flooded stores everywhere that December. Cut to 5 years later, Fox aired the TV special A Christmas Story Live. It was based on the hit Broadway musical, airing December 17, 2017. The production was essentially a remake of the original movie with several new songs added since its Broadway inception. Andy Walken turned in the 9th incarnation of Ralphie, and Matthew Broderick took over the narration for Gene Shepard. Sadly, A Christmas Story Live bombed with both critics and fans. It was a ratings disaster compared to Fox's previous live telecast of Grease. But everyone loves Ralphie, and this could not kill the franchise. A Christmas Story Christmas. Ralphie will forever live well after we're all gone, and his story continues in the HBO Max original movie A Christmas Story Christmas, which began streaming in November 2022. Forget BB guns and girls. In this latest outing, Ralphie Parker is a middle-aged man now obsessed with showing his own children the kind of Christmas he had as a kid. This Christmas story takes place in the 70s, featuring most of the original living cast members returning to reprise their roles, with the exception of Melinda Dillon as Mrs. Parker. Dillon has retired from acting and is replaced by comedy icon Julie Haggerty. The main story finds Ralphie and his family revisiting his childhood home in the wake of his old man's untimely passing. The original movie is produced exclusively for HBO by Peter Billingsley, returning as Ralphie for the first time in 4 decades. He is working alongside longtime filmmaking partner Vince Vaughn, who is no stranger to holiday movies, with both Fred Claus and 4 Christmases under his belt. A Christmas Story Christmas is dedicated to the memory of Darren McGavin, who played the original old man on the big screen. It is the 8th movie in the franchise, matching Police Academy, The Howling, and Harry Potter for number of sequels. Who knew there were so many Ralphie adventures to enjoy? We certainly didn't. That's it for Ralphie and the Parker Clan. Can you believe this underrated saga runs 8 movies deep with an abandoned TV pilot and a live stage show? We're not sure if this series has run its course, but Ralphie has proven to have a long shelf life and will definitely continue to thrive into the future. No matter what happens, we'll always have the original 1983 A Christmas Story, and that's all that really matters. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with all your friends this holiday season. Until the next time, we'll be rolling down the street with our Red Ryder BB guns in hand, trying not to shoot our eyes out.